Shields up, Iron Breakers. Rurikhan here coming at you with another gameplay impressions, and today we're going to be talking about Bloodborne: The Old Hunters for the PlayStation 4. This title was sent to me by PlayStation Portugal so that I could give it a look and tell you guys my opinions on it. So, obviously I want to try to keep this video as spoiler-free as possible, but I do feel like I should show you guys some footage of the new content, so I'm going to restrict myself to one of the first areas. I'm just going to walk around with my character, kill a couple of the new monsters that you guys can expect to find there, but I will not be showing any boss footage. I will only be showing one of the new weapons, and I won't be talking specifics until the very end of the video, so that those of you that want to just get my overall impression of the DLC, you can get it now. And then at the very end, I will give you some more specifics, such as how many new weapons are available and how many bosses you can expect. And, you know, a couple of more details. As of the recording of this video, I am yet to finish the DLC. There's a particular boss that gave me quite a bit of trouble, although I do believe that was specifically due to the build that I ended up doing. But again, I don't want to go into too many details in there to keep things as spoiler-free as possible for all those of you that want to experience this content and haven't yet purchased the game, or maybe you're still playing through it and, you know, all of those details. You guys know that every time that there is something Souls related, I am particularly sensitive about spoilers, so let's try to keep this thing as spoiler free as possible. That includes you guys in the comment section as well. Anyway, talking about the DLC, first thing that always comes to mind is the DLC worth it? A lot of people always ask this question, particularly because we've had different kinds of DLC. Some people have appreciated, some people have not appreciated so much when it comes to the Souls series. So for instance, I'm going to assume that, like me, most of you guys actually enjoyed the Artorias of the Abyss expansion for Dark Souls 1. This DLC is much more in line with that than, say, for instance, the 3 different kinds of DLCs we got for Dark Souls 2. Also, for those of you that weren't aware, the DLC, The Old Hunters, is essentially 2 DLCs combined into one massive overhaul, because there's even changes in the original world as well. As a matter of fact, if you play Bloodborne right now without having access to the Old Hunters DLC, you might encounter at least one. I'm not sure if is it 2? I think it's only 1 though. You might encounter 1 hunter that you can summon. An NPC hunter that already has one of the DLC weapons. I can only remember 1 off of the top of my head. It's just, I'm sorry, a lot of things are jumbling through my mind right now. Just before this video, I did about 35 hours, not straight, but like 12 hours, then another 12 hours, then 10 more hours of Bloodborne live streaming, and I still haven't finished the DLC. Now, that doesn't mean that DLC is like ridiculously long. It's just I went through the entire game on one of the live streams, and then on the other live stream, I went through most of the DLC, and then on the 3rd live stream, I just basically was struggling with a couple of parts in the DLC, because the DLC is challenging. It features, in my opinion, some of the hardest bosses in the game. There are a couple of surprises in those bosses, as a matter of fact, which I really don't want to reveal at this point, because again, spoiler whatnot, and keeping the experience as spoiler-free as possible for you guys. But trust me, I think you're going to be surprised when you go to fight the bosses in the Old Hunters DLC. And I mean surprised in a good way. Even though I know that maybe some people have seen the trailer and whatnot, and you might have identified a boss there that looks like, oh, this looks just like a reskin. It's almost like the case of the Blue Smelter Demon. Trust me when I tell you, it is not. And when you get to it, you will understand why it is not just a simple reskin. When you actually fight against him, you will understand why it's not just a simple reskin. In terms of the levels themselves, the DLC actually turned out to be bigger than what I expected. I actually got to a point in the DLC where I had played quite a lot of it, and I was exploring every little nook and cranny. And I had basically I had gotten to a point where I was fighting this boss, and I was like, this is probably the last boss of the game. Like, that was the feeling that I was getting, simply because of the atmosphere and all the things that had transpired before getting there and all of that. I was like, this has to be the last boss, and what an amazing fight, because that fight was also amazing. And again, I just want to tell you more about the fight, but I can't, because it's spoiler free. And so when I got there, and then I finally defeated that boss, I was like, well, wait a minute, it's not over yet. It seems like it's not even close to being over yet. There was like a whole new area after it, and I'm currently stuck in the boss of that next area. It's been quite a ride. If you're one of those people who like to, check out lore and stuff as well, there's so much new lore with the old hunters, your mind is going to explode. I can tell you right now, your mind's going to get blown by the massive amounts of lore that are going to be thrown at you pretty much almost at all times. You will encounter new weapons, which obviously has been revealed. It was one of the things that the community was really clamoring for. Like, we need new weapons. I'm not going to tell you a specific number now. I will tell you a specific number at the end of the video. Of the weapons that I found, I'm not looking at wikis or anything because I'm still not done with the DLC, like I said. So I can tell you of the weapons that I have found, how much stuff I've found. And possibly some of the armor sets, although I didn't memorize the armor sets now that I think about it. Damn it. But it's fine. There's plenty. I wouldn't say plenty. There's some armor sets, and there's plenty of weapons which will diversify the way in which we play the game, give you a lot more options for builds. I also found at least one new spell. I'm not sure if I think I only found one, but I think there might be more, and I haven't found everything yet. Also, we still have to explore certain quest lines and whatnot, which, again, I might not have done everything 100% correct all the time, so who knows? And speaking of which, for those of you that have already gone to the DLC and you guys are thinking, hey, where's this playthrough, whatever, I'm going to put a link in the description for the live streams that I did. I basically created a whole new character from scratch to go through Bloodborne and then go into the Old Hunters DLC so that I could show people the different movesets of all the weapons that I was picking up and whatnot. And that ended up being my downfall because of the build of that character and the bosses that I had to face. It was hard. It was really hard. Anyway. What else can you expect? The DLC, which is in a nightmare, very much like the Nightmare Frontier and the Nightmare of Mensis and all that, it is very much in a nightmare land. However, this is going to be a nightmare that is going to feel very familiar to you. And again, I'm not going to go into specifics, but even if you're watching just that first initial level, as I'm slowly walking through it and whatnot, you should get a little bit of a familiar vibe and be able to understand what I'm talking about when I say that this DLC is going to feel, the DLC area is going to feel very familiar. But that is only the start of it, because after a while you will go through areas that don't look familiar at all and are completely different. Well, they might be familiar if you've played some of the other Souls series. I know that one of the places that I was in reminded me of a specific area in Dark Souls 1. Then it had some interesting mechanics in there as well. Like, I got lost multiple times, I'll tell you right now. The levels constantly interweave between one another and whatever, and it's very easy to get lost. It's got that genius verticality of the Souls series. Apart from Dark Souls 2, obviously. But it's got the whole thing about you getting more shortcuts instead of more bonfires or lamps in this case. It's got a lot of content, in my opinion. It surprised me with the amount of content that it had and the references that it does to the original Bloodborne. There's a lot of content there. Basically, I guess the conclusion of this video is going to be, if you enjoyed Bloodborne for what it was, if you liked the experience of Bloodborne, you're going to love the DLC. The DLC is amazing. It is most definitely worth it, in my opinion. And the game, together with the DLC, throughout the year, I was debating whether or not Bloodborne had been Game of the Year because I felt like it was missing a couple of things. Having played through the DLC, like Bloodborne with the DLC, so let's say the Old Hunters Edition, so to speak, definitely Game of the Year for me. Hands down. Beautiful game, and it is a beautiful DLC addition to this game. Now, at this point, I'm going to go into a couple of specifics in regards to the number of weapons that I have found. the number of bosses, and how many hours of content I predict players will can expect from their first playthrough. So if you do not want to hear those particular stats, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one. But if you do want to hear, then stay on as we will discuss those. You have about 2 more seconds. Okay, you haven't left that yet. That means you want to know the specifics. So right now I've found 15 new weapons up until this point. Those are 10 weapons for your right hand and 5 weapons for your left hand, among which, yes, I have found the shield. I'm not going to tell you a whole lot about the shield because, again, I want you guys to discover some of this stuff, and this video is still, even though I'm going into some specifics, it's still going to be very spoiler-free. The weapons that I have found have wide array of variety. Like if you want a blood tinge build, you got a weapon for that. If you want an arcane build, there's a weapon for that. There's multiple weapons for that. As a matter of fact, I think there's also multiple weapons for blood tinge, but I can't remember specifically. There's also weapons if you have a pure strength build, weapons for hybrid builds, and weapons for pure skill builds. There's weapons for every build you can think of under the sun. And there's left-handed weapons that will change the way you look at the left hand of your character also. And by the way, in case you guys don't know, there has been a change in a specific arcane spell. This is not, this is not specific to the old hunters, because the patch came and it changed the original Bloodborne as well, but there has been a change in the spell, which is the Augur of Ebrietas, which is the spell where you can see like the tentacles coming out of someone's hand. And basically that spell can now parry as well as cause backstabs. And that was something that I wasn't aware, and that thing is beast. And the reason I'm saying this is because basically if you're going for an arcane build where you can use, or even if you just go for a build that has like, you know, enough arcane to cast Augur of Ebrietas, you can basically use Augur of Ebrietas almost in replacement to your pistol or your shotgun or whatever, you know, and that gives you a lot more options as to what to do with your left hand. You can put a torch in there. You can put one of the new weapons in there, which there are quite some creative new weapons to put in your left hand. I'll tell you that much. And yeah, so 15 new weapons, and then in terms of number of bosses, there are 5 bosses in the DLC that I have found so far. I'm currently stuck on the last boss, which is a beast. He's just a friggin' beast. As a matter of fact, I don't even know how many hours. I spent multiple hours on my last live stream just trying to take him down, and I wasn't able to. Although, like I said, a big deal of that is due to the fact that I ran a build, which is I'm gonna say what build I was running because it's getting pretty crazy. I was running an arcane build. And basically I ended up having to do a hybrid build because I didn't want it to do Chalice Dungeons, and I've quickly found out that if you want to do a pure arcane build, you have to do Chalice Dungeons to go get specific blood gems to put on your weapons, and I find that to be a little bit too harsh on the arcane builds. I feel like it should be easier for you to find the gems that you need for specific arcane builds throughout the regular world and not be forced onto the Chalice Dungeons, which basically I feel is what you have to do if you really want to have a hard-hitting arcane build and get different elements for your arcane build and whatnot. It's not easy. I can tell you right now, it is not easy, and it is the main culprit of why I have not finished the DLC yet. So I ended up running hybrid instead of Strength Arcane, and that's what I'm working towards now. I'm fixing up the stats, and then I'm going to go take a couple of more pot shots at the boss. Now, 15 new weapons, 5 new bosses, and in terms of hours, I think that depending on your skill level and the effectiveness of your build, it should take you anywhere from 8 to 12 hours to finish the DLC on your first run. And also depending on how thorough you're going to be, if you're going to be exploring every little nook and cranny and whatnot, that might take you more time or less time. Again, everything depends on how good you are and how good your build is, because you do need to be efficient. The bosses are quite challenging. Expect the bosses to be quite challenging, which is good, in my opinion. There are summons that you can use, like NPC summons. And there's also a new league that's been added. I'm not sure if you guys were aware. A new covenant that's been added. I'm not sure if you guys were aware. This is also available for people who haven't bought the old hunters. There's a new covenant, which is really cool, which is called the League, and it's about co-op. Just doing co-op runs, and I found that to be really, really cool. Because you guys know me, I'm all about that co-op experience. But anyways, you guys now have my opinion of the Bloodborne DLC. The bosses are amazing to fight. The weapons bring much needed diversity into the amount of builds that you can now do in the game. And yeah, in my opinion, well worth it. It's just all about, did you enjoy Bloodborne? You're going to love Old Hunters. Did you not enjoy Bloodborne all that much? Well, Old Hunters is more of what you've seen in Bloodborne with a lot of improvements, basically. That's it. So anyway, hope this helped you guys make your decisions regarding whether or not you want to get yourself some Old Hunters action. And pretty soon I should be streaming another run-through of the Old Hunters with another one of my characters in the channel. Thank you very much for watching this video. Leave me all your comments, feedback, all that kinds of good stuff in the comment section below. And I will see you guys in the next one.